Okay, in that case, it's going to be 1 through 10 minus 3, so it's going to go 2 to 4. I was holding on to 1.
I'm going to shift this back here. Okay?
Yeah, let's shoot. Thank you. Okay, all set? Long-term members, I am so happy that you are here. If you wouldn't mind sharing your perspectives, I am particularly interested in learning what it meant to you to create, attend, and participate in a liberal church. How was this community different from or similar to your previous experiences or other religious choices available in the area? What was it that drew you to participate and be a member of this community? What surprises and reassurances did you find in the process? If you were raising children at the time, what were your hopes for their religious education? What was the funniest thing you ever experienced here at MVUC? When you come forward to speak, please state your name so us new folks can know who you are. What was the Loft? I read a little bit about it. School-age children, 2 major productions each year, content based on Greek myths, American folk legends, and African folk tales. Rusty Claus, I hope you'll tell us about the Loft. I love to hear each of you share your memories. When I listen to you speak, I hear your truth and feel uplifted by the twinkle in your eyes. Number 1, card number 1.
Well, either I keep the glasses on and then I can see what I've written, or I can take them off and see you. We have choices here. I will not touch this thing.
I'm not sure if I should either.
One of the things I wanted to say, thank you, was that when Clark mentioned Dimension of Miracles, that's when my eldest was painted green and was in that show. I also wanted just to remember with everyone, remember the winding road they keep? When you left church, especially if you went to early, you would be barreling down this road, which was not quite as wide as that aisle, wondering whether you were going to meet someone barreling up. It was an exciting experience, and one that I missed. Do all of you know that Alan Stevens is now one of the founders and managers of the Puppet Company, which works out of Glen Echo, and the Loft. I really don't think I can cover what the Loft meant to me, certainly. I don't know totally about others. It was started by Sally Montanari and Jay Quantrill back in 1964, as a 7th grade RE class. It slowly changed over the years, a bit subversively, I think, to include much younger kids. And finally, when Alan took the older group, 8th grade through 12th. I took the younger group, 3rd grade through 6th. And then when he left, it just sort of all kind of came together. So that ultimately we had, as I said, you got to be able to read, which kind of translated out, you got to learn your lines somehow. It doesn't really matter how. So we had them as young as 4, and they went up to 16, 17, or 18 through high school. And we did do junior and senior. shows. So we ended up with 2 children's shows per year. And we did base them. We tried to make it as wide as possible. So we did do Appalachian Hilltail, Not Quite Martin, Ahovedon and Yepavia, Prince is Not a Small Man, which was based on African folklore. We did a turn-of-the-century vaudeville. We did a turn-of-the-century melodrama, which we did straight. And we tried our best. Chinese, The Royal Cat. Some were written by the students, Kathy McClellan, my son David Claus, and some I wrote. And we created together. Then the youth group, it wasn't so much that you got too old for the loft as you got too big. I mean, let's face it, the loft would seat. Once we created a theater in there with a stage at one end, and the tin can Lego lights. But it was a stage, did have a curtain, the whole 9 yards. And we could seat 75 to 80 people, depending on the size of the people, and use the whole loft area there, because I'm famous for bringing people through the audience and going around and around it. But you know how wide the loft is. Well, you bring in a little bit of wing space there, and so, 3 medium-sized 11-year-olds holding hands. The 2 outside ones would be sort of, one hand would be off stage at least, so that the older kids outgrew it by size mostly. We also did Aria de Campo, Ferengeti's The Serpent, which Karen Wells actually directed rather than myself. And we did that one in the chapel. They did Barry's The 12-Pound Look and Negri's Sunday Cost 5 Pesos. They did Will-o'-the-Wisp, which was fascinating. That was the youth theater. That was the older kids. The younger kids were still doing children's theater, some of which has still been done. The pantomimics, still going on as far as I know. I've done it since then. And Danger at Devil's Bend has been done now 3 times. Not Quite Martin's been done 3 times. Things keep going on. People seem to have forgotten the loft. And this grieves me, I must admit. But as Dottie Ann pointed out, it's probably because there were no adults involved except me, and people had their doubts about me. But at any rate, just the kids. But we touched, my last count was something like 53 families were involved over the 5 years, and over 80 kids. And they're the ones that probably remember. But they've all moved. So, but one thing that Sally said was that when you all started the RE, didn't have a clue of what to do, no one to guide you. Well, let me put it this way. One year, someone came up and said, why don't your loft players do worship services for the RE? Innocent. Doesn't that sound innocent? Sure it does, only no one knew what to do. I mean, there were no guidelines. And so a group of Unitarian kids and I sat down and said, what's a worship service? And then we came down, what's worship? We came up with 18 months of worship services, 18 of them. They were different. Let me tell you, they were different. Including balloons, candles, piles of coats, films, music, improv, you name it, anything we could come up with. And I gather they were fairly popular. But I hope no one forgets the loft, because The kids did things that you would have been very, very, very proud of. We had things called the ABCD Awards, Above and Beyond the Call of Duty Awards, which were actually just a piece of a program that said ABCD Awards. So you had to do something extraordinary, like wear a costume that threatened to fall off in front of God and everyone, shore up the stage without telling anyone, get a couple of people help you, lift the stage up, find some bricks outside, shore them under it between shows. Don't bother to tell anyone. Go on with a fever of 104, swearing it was only 99. Things like that. And then, of course, we gave everybody a little something. Everyone got something. Those have gone on, too. This, which some of you have noticed and commented on, is mine. It's, yep. To Rusty, ABCD, 1972. And this was from the parents. I just want to know what parents, whatever parents are here, that I cherish this proudly above all things. Thanks.
Now I know why I'm number 2. My 3 daughters love Rusty. And my middle daughter, Wendy.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm the mother of the 3 daughters I'm talking about. I'm better known in the olden days up here as Nancy Colby. I am now Nancy Ann Chappell. So for this presentation, I'm Nancy Colby, mother of 3 daughters who fell in love with Rusty, and they lived up here in the loft, I think, particularly my daughter Wendy, who is now a minister and actually a district director of the St. Lawrence district. So, Unitarian, right. So, they will remember Rusty. They do remember. And I remember too what you did for those kids. I got to this church because I met and married a man I met at All Souls and joined the Unitarian Church there. So when we came back to this area, we looked around, drove up here once, and Louise Young greeted me, made me feel so at home, and before I knew it, she talked me into doing a Sunday school class. And I've been here ever since. John Stevens, on a cold winter afternoon, I had 3 crying children wanting to go home. I had a flat tire and he fixed the tire, changed the tire for me. John Wells and David Bumbaugh, and a lot of you that are sitting here saw me through a lot of ups and downs in our family. And I really was wonderful when my minister daughter could marry me in this church for my second marriage. And she was ordained here. We had her ordination in the old guest house chapel. And in fact, Wendy told David Bumbaugh before she told us that she wanted to be a minister. So this church can be proud of helping Wendy get to be who she is today. And I can also say, you helped me be a good Unitarian mother so I could allow my girls to be whatever they wanted to be. The oldest is Jewish, the youngest is Catholic, and I told somebody that I thought I'd done a good job as a Unitarian mother, and they said, I think you overdid it. So I could go on, but I really want to thank you all for being a very wonderful, supportive community that has made my family and me very happy. And that pièce de résistance was, you let me win the quilt right before I got married again here. And I consider that quilt your wedding present to me. Thank you all.
Number 4 now, please, because we're skipping 3. And please don't forget to state your name when you come forward.
Well, I'm not going to talk much. My name is Dee Han. I sort of observed all the things that everybody's been talking about. My husband, Fred, did a lot of book work for various organizations. He was always the treasurer of something. And I worked with Ruth Dell in the School of Religion, and we had a great time. It was a wonderful, joyous time. They're just, and you've done a great job of bringing it back to me. But personally, I just enjoyed the whole process, and I think that a lot of us did, and I hope to hear from others. But it was a great time with many people. I'd love to, hear some more of the names. Just, people like Ann Howard and June Brickelmeyer, and so many people contributed to the School of Religion that it was just a very exciting place. And of course, we went to the church for the same reasons everybody else did, I guess. It was an era of McCarthyism and conservatism, and my Methodist church here, we tried several, and we found we couldn't stand the sermons, so we looked around and, and had a wonderful time in the Unitarian Church. Thank you.
We know you. You're number 5.
I'm number 5, that's right. I'm Al Weinstein. You've already heard much of the early history of the church, and the history has been marked by many things, including the coming and going of ministers, succession of chairmen of the boards. The one event in that period that is difficult for me to forget was in 1963. Chuck Dell already mentioned Ernie Sommerfeld's leaving at that time under circumstances that best to discuss privately. In any event, he did leave, and as often occurs, some of his devoted fans, maybe about 10%, left with him. Well, we were at the time, as often is the case, marginally solvent economically. And with that kind of loss, we were beginning to go deep into debt. As it turned out, Steve Leo, now deceased,